Hey, welcome once again to Weather Update with Dr. Jeff Andresen from Michigan State University. My name is Kevin Frank. Jeff, are at the end of September already. It is September 28th, and it seems like we have some fabulous weather right now if you like fall. And I know I'm enjoying it, and I'm sure many others are. So I look forward to your report this week to see what we have coming up and kind of maybe a little recap of where we were.
We made it, and borrow you mentioned fall, and it is that time of the year. Although we've had some fairly more late summer type weather here for much of the last several weeks here. But I thought so a little bit of color here. We definitely have some color in northern parts of the state, which is spreading with just a gorgeous time of the year. And we've got really for the short term anyway, a gorgeous forecast to talk about. I'll start off though looking here again at the last week, a little bit of a review for most of the state. We did have a couple of days of exceptions with a big weather system that moved through mainly through the south and central part of the state, but it was another warmer than normal week for most of the state. On the left-hand side here, mean temperatures for the last week range from just about normal in the southeast to 3 or 4 degrees above as you move north and west from there up into the upper peninsula. I think the biggest news though here again, and this has been a repeating theme for much of the latter part of the summer. The right-hand side here, a big weather system late last week, which spread several days of heavy rain once again to the southeastern part of the state. You can see that here. Some parts of the Detroit metro area got over 4 inches of rain here, and we've talked about this before. Certainly one of the major highlights or lowlights, depending on how you look at it, would be the above normal precipitation. We started off the season, of course, drier than normal, and significant drought developed early on in the season in May and into June. And then in the middle of June, we had a major change with several heavy rain events. The last one, or the latest one here again, was late last week. And some areas in southeastern lower Michigan, was looking at the numbers here, more than 20 inches of rainfall, have in some cases pushing 24 inches since the second half of June, more than at least 10 inches, some cases 12 inches above normal. So something we don't see very often, and a number of problems associated with that. Too much water, too little time. It was also wetter than normal across much of northern lower Michigan as well. So again, depending on the location, a wide range of conditions here across the state. And speaking of that, and looking at soil moisture and where vegetation is here, given the warmer than normal temperatures, it ranges from drier than normal, and that's especially true across western upper Michigan. Also, we've had a pocket in the thumb, Huron County, the northern part of the thumb here, and the left-hand side here, that has been persistently missed by much of the rainfall that's affected the rest of southern lower Michigan. And you can see that show up as a little bit drier than normal. And recently here, we've also seen some dryness crop up in southwestern lower Michigan, although again, given the rainfall late last week, it really isn't much of an issue. I think the dryness in western upper Michigan probably is the most profound or pronounced that we have anywhere in the state, but even there, it's not that bad. And that contrasts with a lot of green on this map, with significantly wetter than normal conditions. That's especially true in the southeast. Also across much of northern lower Michigan, you can see greens here as well, indicating that soil moisture, plant available soil moisture in the top 3 feet of the profile here is consistently above where it typically is at this time of the year, greater than normal values. And again, that reflects all of the heavier than normal rainfall we've had over the last several weeks. In terms of temperature, very pronounced trends here as well. And with another normal to above normal week, just look at the right-hand side here. These are growing degree day based 50 surpluses. This is using a season defined by the beginning of March 1. And for a couple of months now, we have been running surpluses, and they've been getting larger with time. And the map here, this is one we don't see very often, but you can see the color code here. Almost all of the state, save a couple spots up in the Huron Mountains, up in the UP would be one, but all of those areas at least 2 calendar weeks ahead of normal in terms of degree day accumulation. Again, looking at the whole season here. And obviously that's going to take us well into the fall season here. But we had a warmer than normal season, and that is clearly reflected here in above normal GDD accumulations. We also had late last week, and while much of southern lower Michigan or southeastern lower Michigan was looking at heavy rainfall, we actually had clear and relatively cool conditions in the UP, and some of the first freezing temperatures of the season occurred. That was primarily in western upper Michigan. That's the only part of the state that has experienced any freezing temperatures. Most of them were in the low 30s, 29 to 30 to 32 degrees, but it was the first one of the season. Some graphics here depicting when we typically see that statistically, and the first freezing temp, first 32 of the fall typically ranges from the early to middle part of September in interior areas of upper and northern lower Michigan. That's the earliest we see it. Most of the state area-wise sees the first freeze in the first week of October to the middle of October, and then the latest areas are the areas in the state that see it last, typically in the southwestern and southeastern corners, and that's usually late October. So we're really moving into that time of the year here when we would expect to see that first, again, 32. And it's in the UP, it actually was close, maybe a little bit behind normal in terms of timing. So, but that has happened there. There is, that said though, right now there's no hint, at least in our forecast, of anything soon or coming. It's going to be at least a week and maybe longer than that. It's hard to predict that very far out with any accuracy, but right now there's no signs of any frost or freezing temperatures anytime soon. So looking at the forecast here, very straightforward. The upper air, Michigan is in between a large troughing feature off to our east out over eastern North America, and then a big ridge, which is built in just to our west. We've got high pressure here from Canada. And this frontal boundary, this is the one that moved through the state yesterday. It's pushed south now down into Indiana and Ohio. And basically high pressure and fair dry conditions are the rule here, looking at the next several days. I mentioned a straightforward forecast. And so that's what we've got. Today will probably be the coolest day of the remainder of the work week. Highs generally in the upper 60s north to around 70 south. So a few degrees cooler than it was yesterday. By tomorrow, though, it will warm back up a couple degrees. And so we'll end the remainder of the week will be a few degrees above normal once again, with, again, highs generally low, maybe a few mid 70s in the south, and then lows generally in the mid upper 40s to near 50. So not very far away from what the climatology says, but a couple degrees above the long-term normals. Here's tomorrow. Again, high pressure firmly in control over the region. You can begin to see here off to our west, this is the next weather system to have any influence on us, and it probably won't be much, but we'll see. I'll talk about that in just a minute. Out here over the northern Great Plains, slowly approaching Michigan, but again, tomorrow, another fair, dry, mostly sunny day. Here is Thursday morning at 8 o'clock. That weather system gets a little closer, but once again, looking at more fair, dry conditions, and that should actually last to Friday. Now, the next chance for any precipitation here, and it's a little foggy. The model forecast guidance, there's some conflicts between some of these the models. Some suggest that the next chance may be as early as Saturday or possibly Sunday. I think we have to probably give that would be the chance, but right now it's not looking like anything organized or significant or widespread or heavy. So if we do see any scattered showers over the weekend, they will be on the light side. And again, relatively low aerial coverage. In terms of precipitation totals for the next week, another drier than normal week, or certainly a drier than normal week here for most of the state, with the greatest totals across southern and western portions of the state, maybe a quarter of an inch possible. And if we do see that again, that would be late in the weekend into early next week. Nothing for the next several days, but the totals here forecast taper off as you go north and east, basically down to less than 1/10 of an inch. So again, many areas will be drier than normal for the week. Potential evapotranspiration values here, given a little bit above normal temperatures. Our PET rates and water needs will be a little bit elevated, not too much though. The weekly totals here from about 0.6 of an inch in northern parts of the state to about 0.8. So that, again, that's just a little bit above what we typically see for the last week in September. So nothing really to write, really earth-shattering, but not unexpected given the warmer than normal temperatures. In the medium range forecast term, there are themes here as well that have been consistent over the last several days. Looking at the jet stream, and both the 6 to 10 day and 8 to 14 day outlooks are very similar, and they call for this big ridging feature, which is there right now, to basically persist for late September into early October. And with that, no surprise here, it's a strong signal for warmer than normal mean temperatures. And I think that's a really good bet certainly for the remainder of September, but certainly also for the first full week of October. The other trend or tendency here with that ridge is to see below normal or drier than normal conditions. And that also, again, I think is a fairly good bet for this time frame. So as well, we get a little taste of it here for the next few days, but that pattern is expected to continue probably into early October. Now, beyond that, there are new long lead outlooks, and they are a little different. They still call for the outlook for October is on the top here. And notice that we have a new format, a new color format from NOAA's Climate Prediction Center, who generates these outlooks, or these official outlooks, and they've tried to make them a little bit more appealing or easy to distinguish between the areas. So, and I think they have. So if you're wondering why the change, well, they actually had a format change. The numbers are still the same, but it's a different color scheme. In October, mean temperature forecast on the upper left, precipitation forecast for October in the upper right. And then below that, we have the 3-month for October through December. And again, there's some continuity here with many of the recent long lead outlooks over the last couple of months, and they have been consistent in calling for warmer than normal conditions this fall. That's still there, especially for the month of October. But the big difference is, and the changes, remember we talked in the medium range about warmer and drier than normal. Well, they bring in a signal here for above normal, or at least normal, if not above normal precipitation. So there would have to be some type of a regime change or a jet stream change later on, maybe during the middle of October, in the latter part of October. That's what's anticipated there. Most of that came from numerical forecast guidance. So again, a change is indicated, jet stream change, flow pattern change by the middle of October, and probably continuing through the late part of October. And then the 3-month outlook is similar to that, with a normal to above normal mean temperatures and normal to above normal precip totals continuing then on into the early part of the winter. Now, beyond that, we've mentioned this before, but as we look ahead here, the Climate Prediction Center is also calling for the likelihood of a second or back-to-back La Nina event developing here, actually, as we speak, certainly over the next couple of months. The probability of this is it's up in the upper 70s, up to about 80%. That's in the lower right-hand side here. You can see the probabilities. And then on the top here, this is looking at sea surface temperatures in the equatorial Pacific, which is where we look at ENSO and whether it's warm or it's cold or positive or negative. And the negative, sometimes we'll refer to this as the negative ENSO. That is a La Nina, cooler than normal, or factor here. And you can see below normal or cooler than normal sea surface temperatures are forecast for the next several months. And what is termed now, it's not a big one, but it's probably a weak, maybe a moderate event coming up here. So now a little bit like last year. And I would say, thinking again about last year, we had a weak to moderate intensity La Nina last year as well. It's not common to see these back-to-back years, but they do happen. But both of them are right now, at least the projections are that this one will also be weak. It's important to note that the impacts that we typically see with La Nina and El Nino, for that matter, that are weak are less common. The weather features that we see here in North America, and I think that's something to keep in mind. So yes, we tend to see certain types of weather with these events, especially if they occur in the winter season, which they are. But it's relatively weak. But our outlook does follow that fairly consistently. It does call for normal, maybe a little bit above normal temperatures here. Now we're looking at 3-month periods starting from November and January in the upper left here, all the way down into the summer of next year. So we're basically looking out here 9-10 months into the future. But with La Nina in the Pacific, you're seeing a little bit of what we typically see. The warmer than normal mean temperatures are really because of long-term trends here. But the and again, officially they do suggest near to above normal mean temperatures. The big message with La Nina, though, is typically with enhanced storm track through the Ohio Valley. Again, that's the typical thing that we see during the middle, especially the middle and latter part of the winter. And that's, so you look at these outlooks here on the top season, November through January, and then over to January through March, we do have elevated risk of above normal. That's directly from the La Nina forecast, even into the spring season here. But again, the caveat is it's only a week of, if it's only a week event, we may not see these anomalies. And if we think back again about last year, it was a weak to moderate intensity La Nina. We definitely did not see a typical La Nina winter. Doesn't mean it statistically, more likely than not that we will, but last year we didn't. And I wouldn't be surprised again this year if it is weak that these don't show up. But this is the official outlook now. One last thing to say about that with, again, the temperatures and the above normal precipitation forecast. Most times we do see above normal snowfall in the winter with a winter La Nina, and that would be the case this year too, although again, you put that caveat on there because of the strength. And then looking if for what it's worth, and the skill scores are not great here, but looking back at the temperatures, you can see again near to above normal mean temperatures for next spring and summer, maybe a little bit above normal precip or near normal. Not much of a direction on either one, but again, it's once you get out that far, the skill of these is somewhat limited. So at least something to think about. But the winter forecast, the skill scores, the accuracy is a little bit higher, and that's one at least to keep in mind. So summarizing here, a beautiful forecast for us. Great early fall conditions, mostly fair and dry for the next several days, near to slightly above normal temperatures. Next chance for any precip not till this weekend at the earliest, maybe pushed out a little bit longer than that. And as you just saw, possibly some changes in October towards a wetter pattern. And then finally with La Nina, maybe a little bit more typical winter type of winter here coming up with above normal snowfall. And with that, I would say we made it through another season here, and it's thanks for comments, feedback, questions, etc. We'll put it and wait for next year and look forward to the spring. So that's all for me.
Thank you, Jeff. It's always interesting to start thinking about winter already. but I know that forecast, wetter than normal, maybe more snow than normal, is probably nothing we look forward to. But
yeah,
sometimes when it comes to turf management, especially golf courses that sometimes suffer winter kill issues, more snowfall is not necessarily a bad thing as long as it's not melting and freezing and all that stuff throughout the entire winter. But
we'll put it in order for that, for the reduce the number of freeze thaw cycles. But and again, they're not like what we see for the next couple of days, but it's still, sometimes it's interesting to note, and some of them do have a little bit of skill, but it's not nearly as strong or as high as what we see for our short-term outlooks.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Jeff, for the entire season. And I might touch base with you as we get maybe into November, December sometimes, if something has changed, just to update that winter forecast for us.
We'll keep an eye on things.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks.